there, everybody. I hope you're doing fine. And this is another edition of the Thesis. And wherever you are watching this on CCR TV, whether it's online or on the cable network, I'd like to welcome you to another very, very special episode. And on this episode, I have a very special guest who has more than 40 years in the teaching industry. Presenting before you, Isabel Santaritavasu. Yes, to our viewers who are watching, you'd like to say hi to our viewers?
Hi. I'm happy to be here. I hope you're happy to watch.
Right. So on the Thesis, we primarily have individuals who have completed their doctorate or their thesis in various fields, whether it's music, art, anything. It can be literature or sports. There are so many fields that you can complete your doctorate. And Isabel, of course, you completed your thesis in theatre. I think it's something that you were very, very close to. So, so if you could tell us, your thesis was titled Theatre in the Context of Social Transformation in Asian Cultures.
Yes.
How did you think about this? You were in the theatre field, so...
Yes, as a student of English literature and then as a teacher, drama interested me. Always, you know.
So right from school, it was?
Not really. College.
Okay.
College. In school, it's a little elementary what you learn of literature in school. But I think it was college that, sort of deepened my interest in drama. But when you say drama at college level, you're talking basically of the written text. But then, as time passed and I became a member of a theatre group, the performance part of it began to interest me even more, you know. So I combined these two when I went in to do my PhD.
All right, okay. So was there something that kind of, put a little spark in you, that maybe somebody that inspired you in college, or just the books that you read in library?
No, I think it was just the fact that theatre is such a powerful art. I had experienced it as a powerful art, and I just wanted to know more about it. And when one studies, as a student of English literature, you study the West, you study English drama, American drama. I wanted to know more about Asia, India and other countries of Asia. And I took that direction. So it wasn't any specific person who sort of pushed me in that direction, just life.
But so we are talking, say, about 40 years back? When you were in college, I'm talking about.
More than that.
More than that. More than that.
Yeah.
How was it like, having access to, written material at that time? How easy and how difficult?
It was exciting, but it was very different from what it is today. Now, I don't know whether people even visit libraries.
You're right.
Everything is online. And it was totally different, my day. You had to actually wait for the next day. If you wanted a particular book, you had to wait until you went to a physical library, and sometimes you couldn't get a book by a particular author. You found something else by the same author or another author. And sometimes you couldn't borrow a book because it was a reference book. So you had to sit there and laboriously make notes by hand. It's a different scenario completely now.
Right. Yeah. You get everything at the click of a button.
Absolutely. And you get all kinds of stuff now. You get scholarly articles, and you get, pop articles, and on YouTube you get people talking about drama. You get performances online. So if you are in my field, online is
it's a huge ocean. Yes. And it's just available just there for you. You just need to know what to search for.
And what to eliminate.
Right. Because you get, So now, if I may kind of take you back in time, rewind to school days, You said you were not much into drama, but you must have been reading a lot in school.
Oh, yes.
Apart from your curriculum,
Right.
what was that inspired you to read?
We are a family that had lots of books, and everybody read.
So you were in Panjim that time, or
I lived in Panjim.
In Panjim,
yes,
okay.
Yes. So we had lots of books to choose from, and the older people had different tastes. So we had lots to choose from to read, you know. And vacation time, one read. And I am a little bit of a quieter person. My brothers might be the outdoor type. I wasn't, so I read. Then I was happy to have. I was very fortunate to have had very good teachers. Teachers of English, for instance.
And in which school was this?
And that was the Government Higher Secondary School, affiliated to Delhi University.
Okay.
And there was one Professor Bambino Dias.
Okay.
And she was extremely inspiring, and she was extremely encouraging as far as literature went, you know. So she would ask, what are you reading now, and why don't you try and read this, and this is very exciting. I think she was quite a motivating force.
All right.
Yes.
So was this specifically something that she kind of said to you, or to the entire?
No.
Okay.
She said that to the class.
To the class, okay.
But I suspect that she had a little bit of a soft corner for me,
yeah.
because she encouraged me in public speaking, and you know, she was.
So you did go on stage when you were in school?
I did.
You did, yeah.
At gunpoint, but I did.
So
yeah.
debates.
Yes.
So you did take part?
Yes,
All
I
right,
did,
fantastic.
a little bit, yes.
All right. So from school came your college, and that's where,
Yes.
you know, everything kind of took shape more
No,
for you?
it was the opposite. In college, I became even more retiring.
Oh.
I became even more shy. But then I read
But you were
more
reading,
and more.
yes,
I
yes,
was
yes.
reading, I was
Okay.
reading.
Yeah.
And then the syllabus actually demands that you read more. And by that time, you know, your interest in literature has already taken root.
Correct.
So there was no looking back.
Yeah.
As a student in college, I read more.
All
yes.
right. It's like, because the more you read, it's like, you know, getting that basic foundation right. You have
Yes.
everything in, and then
Yes.
just like a seed, it
Correct,
grows up.
Correct. And it becomes a craving. You know, you've read this by this author, and what else has he written? Else has she written? So,
But did you have friends who you could sit and talk to
yes,
about this?
Yes. I had good friends.
All right.
And good colleagues. It was nice.
It was nice.
I cannot complain.
Yes.
No.
So you've completed your MA in literature. What
Yes.
were your subjects in?
Oh my! It's so many years ago. All kinds of subjects. There was.
But you majored in, what was your major in English?
English literature.
English literature.
English literature.
Okay, fine.
And then later, just for the heck of it, I did my MA again in economics and sociology.
All right.
Don't ask me why. I just like to study, so I did
So that was when you were working as well?
That was once I started working,
Okay, fine.
10 years later.
10
yes.
years later.
Yeah.
So if I get a rough estimate of the time, in which year was this?
That I completed my MA.
Yes. Your
72.
72.
Then I started teaching immediately in 72.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure your students must be remembering you. Many of them would surely be watching this.
They're kind. And I do have a good relationship with my students. It's their goodness as well.
Okay.
So I'm grateful to my profession, I must admit that.
Right.
Yeah.
You make a lot of friends, like
Oh,
when
you
you're,
do,
yes.
you do. And
That's-
such a variety of students we get, no?
Yes.
So all kinds of reactions and all kinds of questions, and it's an exciting place, the classroom.
The classroom, yeah. I'm sure there are many who are watching this on CCR TV, because this is online on YouTube and, you know, all the social networks now, apart from on the cable, and can be watched anywhere. So do share it with your friends and family. I'm sure Isabel has been an inspiration for many of you all as well. And so now let's go back to her. And so Isabel, 1970 would be the time when you finished your MA in your economics, etc.
No, that was late 70s or
Late 70s.
early 80s.
Okay.
But economics and sociology, that didn't really become a part of my teaching career. I just did it for kicks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So 80s. Then after that, what about your PhD? Now we'll come to what the title of
I must
this
confess that my PhD came late.
program.
It came,
About 15 years later. After that,
yes, very much
say around
later.
1995.
Later than that.
Later than that.
Later than
Okay.
that. I registered in 2004.
Okay.
Yeah. So in my 50s,
Mhm.
I did my PhD.
All right.
Family responsibilities
Mhm.
was a major
Mhm.
deterrent to take up,
Taking up
you
your-
know,
yeah.
PhD program
Mhm.
is quite demanding.
Right.
So it was there at the back of my mind, but I didn't have the space
Mhm.
to register. So I registered in 2004 and completed in 2008.
Okay.
So 4 solid years.
Years of.
Yeah.
So this was prior to, I mean, after you had the Mustard Seed Art Company that you
Yes.
founded as well. So
Yes, very much
this was
so.
in 94, the Mustard Seed, or
1987.
87?
We complete 35 years this year.
All right,
Yes,
fantastic.
yeah.
And I'm sure there are many who have acted, been part of the Mustard Seed Art Company
Yes,
over the
there are,
years.
there
Yes.
are, yes.
So you have like written what? How many plays? 65 or?
I have written some 40 plus,
Okay.
but we have performed
Mhm.
plays by other members of the group as well, and other playwrights.
Right.
So we have performed more than 65 plays.
Mhm. Yes. Any memorable one from them that you can, like, you know, which comes
One
first?
that might interest the audience is Katore Baji,
Uh-huh.
because it was on the Goan, who is Abe Faria, the master hypnotist, and people know him. So they say,
It
what
was-
Konkani title for an English play? But everybody in Goa knows what Katore Baji
Yes.
means and who it is associated with, you know.
Right.
So that became an interesting play.
Okay. So there you go. So right now on the thesis, of course, we are kind of opening up the books and katuring the baji, like, and finding a little bit more about Isabel was about her thesis. So now let's get to a little bit about your thesis. Like, you know, the thought came to your mind. You said you had it at the back of your mind for quite some time. So from here now, for somebody who probably has no idea actually how to go about it, like, you know, after your thought, you need to put it into action. So what's the first thing you need to do once you have?
The first thing that you need to do is read, because you need to, in some way, nail down exactly what you're interested in. The idea might be vague, and you have to be a little precise before you approach your guide with your own suggestions. And then the guide will also help you, or, you know, the person you have approached as a guide. They may not finally be your guide because there are so many other you know, factors to be taken into account. But the person you approach will probably give you some other insights on how to define your topic, better, the time frame, and so many other aspects. The availability of data. If you choose a topic that you're certainly not going to find any material on, you're going to find yourself at a big loss.
But is it still a kind of a point of concern that you might not get data on a topic? Yes.
Depending on the kind of data you're looking for. If it is physical data, for instance, I have done my thesis on theatre, but I clearly focused on the written text in translation, because I was looking at Chinese theatre, Sri Lankan theatre, and Bengali theatre. So in translation, and also performance as it was written about. I would not be able to actually see a performance of a play that had been
long back.
Long back. So you have to be in your own mind very clear what you're going to base your study on. And other people do their PhDs on data that is really physical. They have to write a questionnaire and go from house to house collecting data.
Yeah.
So you need to be very clear what it's going to involve, you know. You can't be in the air and have some kind of an airy-fairy notion that you're going to get a doctorate.
Yeah.
You have to be precise and specific. So you have to read, you have to maybe write down a kind of a tentative title, discuss it with your prospective guide, and then read up on availability of material and proceed.
All right, so on the thesis, of course, that's kind of opening up the nut and getting into the shell of the thesis here with Isabel Vaz, who is, of course, very, very well known in Goa, in India, when it comes to theatre art. So many students that she has taught over her career and helped as well. So, Isabel, if you can quickly take us through your thesis and tell us a little gist about, you know, your thesis, on what you based it on, and probably a few of the topics or the chapters that would interest our viewers.
Right. See, the title is, of course, very scholarly, as all PhD topics are. It was called Performing Change, a study of theatre in the context of social transformation in 3 Asian cultures in the 20th century. So everything
so that itself, like, you know.
Yes, it sounds a little daunting.
Yeah, a little Chinese, a little Indian, and a little Sri Lankan.
Right. And even if you say Indian, India is so vast and Indian theatre is so massive. I had to restrict it, you know. And it was only the 20th century that I was looking at. So I went in for Bengal, West Bengal. Marathi theatre is great as well, but I didn't want to spread myself too thin, so I restricted myself to West Bengal. Yes. And I focused both on the literary and on the performance text. You know, I knew that you know, the literary text has some cultural value. I didn't know what the cultural value of the performance was, and so I wanted to investigate that. And I had good guides. I had Professor Ashok Joshi and Professor Kiran Budkule. They were 2 guides. Usually people have one, but Professor Joshi had already accepted to be my guide. And then there was a change there in the retiring age. So he would be retiring
during the course of your
and so he was required to have a co-guide, and Dr. Kiran Budkule agreed to be a co-guide, both to my benefit. So I had the benefit of 2 good guides.
Good guides, yes. So a lot of guidance from them helps.
A lot of guidance, lot of guidance, because it's research and you're new to it. And the research guides have already guided so many students. They are also PhDs themselves. So it's an absolute need to go with a PhD guide. And it has to be a guide that you work well with, you know, because it's a number of years that you work together.
That's right. And correct. You were telling me about your connection, the Chinese factor that you threw in. So how easy, how difficult was it? Any trips to China you had to make, or just virtual trips?
I went to Bengal. I went to Sri Lanka. I couldn't go to China. It was beyond my pocket. But I read about it. And well, I was extremely lucky because no internet at the time when I started.
And China still has most of its data only to themselves, I think.
Not anymore. And I was extremely lucky because I found books. The number of books that I found on Chinese theatre, well, serendipity. They came my way, you know, and I found a lot of material on the Cultural Revolution, on people who were involved in theatre, like Madame Mao, the 4th wife of Chairman Mao. She was an actress herself, you know, and so it became very exciting. Sri Lanka, of course, we are neighbors, so I visited Sri Lanka. I watched some plays being performed there, and well, Calcutta is not very far,
Yes.
so I even attended a theatre festival there of what was known as Theatre of the Oppressed.
So you
So
took
it
the
was
Howrah Express from Goa?
And yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So, any specific topics that you think our viewers would be kind of interested in, or something that you could share with from your thesis that could interest our
Yes.
viewers?
I thought my chapters were themselves quite interesting. The introductory chapter was theatre and social transformation. You know, in the remote past, theatre was considered a very powerful ritual and form of art. Ancient Greece, ancient Sanskrit theatre, for instance. Today, people problematize the value of theatre. People say that TV, or now it's social media, the print media, they are what counts. And theatre, it's in the margins. I wanted to investigate that. So that was my primary focus, theatre and social transformation. Then I spoke about the text in the context of society and theatre. Text,
Yeah.
in a context. You know, a text is not born
Just outside.
in a vacuum.
Right.
So what was the context of that
The
text?
text, yes.
Then the playwright as a political figure, the playwright in political costume, because theatre became extremely political in the 20th century. Then gendering theatre. See, most people think the arts are equally open
To both.
to male and female. Wrong. Theatre has been closed to women
To women.
for a very, very long time. Ancient Greece, no women actors. Ancient India, no women actors. 15th, 16th century England, Shakespearean drama, all parts played by boys and men, no women actors. Even close to our own day, you know.
Right. Even in theatres and all, no? These
Theatre was different. Theatre broke new ground because the wife of the Pai Agustin, she was encouraged by him to act. So theatre can boast of having had women right from the start. And although she died quite early, soon after her, 4 other women became part of theatre history, you know. But generally, no. India, a few women became theatre artists in Bengal. But who were they? They came from the community of sex workers. So they were great artists on stage. But outside the theatre, their social standing was very low. You know, so I wanted to study all this, and a whole lot of things came as a surprise to me. Today, of course, the scene has changed. In China, there are women who act now. Very few women playwrights even today in China. In India, a few women playwrights today, but wonderful female directors and women who act, women actors. Now, we don't use the word actress anymore. So it's becoming a different world in theatre. You know, in the remote past, there were no women even in the audience, in a theatre audience. So all that I learnt along the way, you know.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you have you found out, you know.
Very.
So, I mean, okay, no women on stage, but I didn't expect no women watching it as well.
Yes, because that was a public space and women were supposed to be restricted to private spaces. The home, stay there. come out and mix with an audience made up of people you don't know? Sorry. And that was worldwide. And so theatre has changed a great deal in the last 50 years or maybe 100 years. So all this I learnt as I went along, you know. I didn't know any of this. I discovered it when I studied for my PhD.
Right.
The next chapter was the changing frames of performance. The performance itself changed. The styles of acting, the styles of writing, everything changed in this very, what shall we say, very happening century, which was the 20th century. And the final chapter was performing change. Does theatre really bring about change in society? I wanted to ask. And I discovered some answers.
All right.
Yeah.
So you did find a change.
Oh yes, I did
a lot.
find change.
Right.
Not a lot in the sense that theatre doesn't change policy. But theatre changes the climate of thought. Theatre changes public demand from the audience. What the audience might ask the politicians, for instance. That changes.
Right.
Theatre doesn't make laws. Theatre doesn't influence the legislature or the judiciary. But it does change the fabric of society.
The society, right. So was that, so this came in after your art company, your Mustard Seed Art Company that you had like 20, 25 years. So you were still, at that point in the late 80s, 87, after you started off the Mustard Seed Art Company, I think you had already inculcated, you had the presence of having ladies, females,
oh, certainly,
acting
from day one.
Day one, right.
From day one. Yeah, we have had men and women, boys and girls, all ages.
Right.
We have been, in that sense, I think, welcoming to one and all.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, right from on stage to off stage as well, our personality on today's The Thesis, this program, this show, of course, has made a lot of influence on the society as well. So thank you so much, Isabel, for sharing your little insight into theatre and being here with us on this very special day. Of course, as we discussed a little bit about your thesis in a nutshell. And before we go, if you have a message to our viewers or anything you'd like to say to them, just in general about theatre, or
in general about theatre, I would say give it a try. Theatre has much to offer. But then beyond theatre, I would say study further. Doing your PhD is one step towards studying. Never give up studying, because the mind needs to be cultivated. And we need to be inspired by other writers as well. So I would say never stop studying. It's exciting. It's a nice journey.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and with the message that you've given to our viewers. I'm sure you're going to spread this lovely knowledge about books. It can be just so vast, but then if you love something and you take it on, it's never going to leave you. It would surely be useful for you at some point or the other in your life. And just like Isabel, who finished her MA and then about 20 years later decided to do her PhD, there's never a time frame for learning. So keep that little bug of learning something new going in right through your lifetime, right?
Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much. We, of course, continue with our programs on The Thesis. We'll have a new guest and we hope to see you someday, somewhere. Of course, don't forget to share and follow us on our YouTube page, on Facebook as well. That's CCR TV Goa. And till we meet again, thank you and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Yes.